Great. So I'll officially jump in. Thanks for joining me on the podcast and hosting as far as the venue. You are Lily Vi Pham.
Yes.
Great. And I would describe you, I think of you as a producer in film, in the film industry, but I know you do a lot of other stuff. So do you want to line that out from the get-go?
Yeah. I guess people know me to have crazy odd jobs, I guess, because I did a bunch of things. But in terms of the film industry, I actually started off as a makeup artist for a very small shoot, and it was just a way to pay for college. And eventually, I think I met a DP, and then from there, I wanted to be an AC. So I started ACing and cam mopping for about 8-9 years now, and then, or just about 8 years. And then 2 years ago, I recently made the transition to produce. I produce mainly narratives and a couple of small ads, but I also production coordinate and production manage for like stage shows and all that too.
Woo.
I know, it's been crazy.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a lot let's just explore all of that for starters, and then we'll kind of gauge into, I'm really interested in asking about producer outlook and dreams and all that kind of stuff. But I guess, how long ago did that start happening? What were you going to college for? Let's start with that.
I went to college for accounting, or originally it was like a painting major, and then I switched to accounting, and then I took up photography, wedding photography to pay for college, and from there I met a producer and got into YouTube and helping that out, and just eventually start you can say meeting new people, and they brought me into kind of deeper into the world of film, and from there I started seeing more of narrative commercials and all that. And you know, I also kind of, the reason why I jumped into producing is because I met a couple of ADs where I started second ADing for commercials, and I feel like second AD, because I got to work closely with the production team, I started wanting to do more production, you know, as a coordinator, manager, or producer. And I think the reason why I wanted to do that was, you know, being in crew, I've done like the higher end production, but I also done the lower end production, and there are many times where as a crew member I just felt overexhausted. I felt like production wasn't really working with us. So for me, I believe with my experience in crew size, I can produce or manage a production that can be a happy medium between crew and creative and all that.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to
Yeah,
go.
because I have never worked with you on set before. So I've heard good things.
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad.
I've heard, the main thing that I've heard is that you definitely have, it makes sense. Like you take care of your crew because you know what it feels like to be the crew.
Yeah.
And that's very cool.
Thank you.
So I guess I don't know, you never know who's going to be listening. So let's start from the beginning in terms of what does a second AD do?
Perfect. Actually, it's quite interesting. I was on set the other day, and I had someone who wasn't sure what a second AD did. So I was explaining to her was that a second AD is, if you say it out loud, the full title is Second Assistant Director. And basically, it's the same thing. They assist the first AD, which is the first assistant director. And the first AD managed the set, you know, from making sure we're on schedule, making sure we're on time, making sure the director gets creatively what he needs, but at the same time, making sure the logistics with crew is working out and all that. So the second AD does, I would say, like the paperwork style. They wrangle the talent, they wrangle background, they do call sheets.
So when you say wrangle.
Yeah, basically, if the first AD needs someone, like needs a talent to go on set after doing makeup and all that, the second AD would be the one who pretty much go get them, making sure they're all ready for the scene, brings them to set, and all that. And they do the call sheet, which is basically the schedule, call times, when people need to be there. They contact the cast, who needs to be there, what time, what do they need to bring, and all that. Yeah. And they also do something that actually a lot of people don't know is production reports. And production reports are basically, it's exactly what the title means. Is basically the daily report of what happened during that day. So they write that, what time did people leave, what time did people, or wrap, I guess. Yeah. What time did we have lunch? Did anyone went overtime? Did anyone went into meal penalty? Basically, crew has to eat lunch at their 6 hour after they start working. So we just need a record of that. Any injuries, they keep a record of that. And that's something for production people like me, producer, I can look back and see, any incident report, any things that have to deal with insurance or damages with vendors. I can see that report that day that, okay, this happened that day. I saw what happened. I saw who reported it. In case I have any questions, I can contact that person. And the AD gathers all that information for me. But that also is in the narrative sense too, in some commercial, because I've done stage where, where it's a little different, where the production manager does the production report, and my script supervisor actually does the scheduling. It's really? A weird, it's different with stage show, because my script supervisor, they do kind of like the timeline and code of like what's happening on stage, but they also do the scheduling, and then from there my production team sends out the call sheets and all that. And my associate director, it's not really assistant director, my associate director works directly at the video truck or video village, I guess you can say, with the director, making sure they give out the commands for the stage manager, and the stage manager basically manages the stage. So it's a little different with stage. I know it's like it's really strange sometimes.
So when you say stage, and just to clarify, I haven't been on many stages before. I do primarily the narrative side, but and then I primarily script supervise. So I did have an opportunity once to be a third script supervisor on a stage before, which was really weird. So that was a game show. So but stage can be a variety of different things.
It could be a variety of different things. It's like studio stage, like game shows, competition shows are really known for that. What was it? Sitcom tends to work with this format a lot of times. Typically sitcoms and stage shows, like competition shows, game shows, anything you see like that. Or like, what can I say? Like the Late Late shows, similar to that. Like talk shows will have this similar format. And actually, typically music specials under a network like CBS or something. So my music special that I coordinated before does the same format as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of information for. I'm assuming like being involved in film, it's easier. I can actually understand what you're saying, but I can imagine somebody who's not in film being like, "Whoa, it's a lot of stuff being filmed." Yeah. Okay. So I could definitely see it makes sense when you describe what a second AD does, that it's an easy transition into like the producer side, because I guess the way that I mean, you can describe it like many different ways, but like one way that I've heard it described too is like the first AD is worrying about today, second AD is worrying about tomorrow. Yes. So, and that's of course what the producers are thinking similarly too. It's like planning ahead and getting everything in order.
Yeah, I work really, when I'm like a producer on like, let's say short films or anything like that, where it's a smaller crew, or even like a bigger narrative, if I'm a coordinator, I work closely direct with my second AD, because I need to give her like, what time do we have each location? When do we have the location? Of course she has a schedule from her first AD, but then I let her know how's parking, like, do we have trailers? Do we have all these things that she needs to communicate to cast? And
then your information is, in that scenario, is your information funneled through the second AD back to the first AD on occasion too? Because they're having their meetups, and then the second AD now has more info from producer, and like, actually, we gotta tweak this even more or whatever.
Yeah. So then it's like every day on set. Usually, I think around lunchtime as we do it. The second AD has a preliminary schedule, basically what's gonna happen tomorrow, and typically they get it approved by the first AD, making sure like, you know, when the first AD built the schedule, they make sure that we got everything for this for the call sheet for the next day. But they also send it to the producers and the coordinators. So we have to take a look at it to make sure everything makes sense, because, you know, the AD team, they're dealing with schedules and figuring out when to need cast and all that. But as coordinators and producers, at least, we're figuring out the logistics, like when do we have access to the location? Or we have contacts to the location, we have contacts to vendors, we have contacts to a lot of these things on set. And we're actually setting up a lot of things like base camp, parking, and all that. So we have that information that the AD team needs in order to let the crew know or let the cast know and all that. So we work really close hand in hand. At least with my second AD, I work really close.
For sure. So I guess getting back to, we are currently nearing the end of 2020.
Yes.
It's been an interesting year, but all right. So how long have you been pursuing the craft of film? And is this the, when were you exploring wedding photography and makeup? How long ago was that?
The timeline is so interesting. I would say 2009 to 2010, I was exploring weddings. And a lot of times my job simultaneously happened at the same time.
Sure.
So when, let me backtrack. So I was doing makeup already to support myself through college and high school. So about 2008 to 2010, I was doing makeup. And then around 2010, I was also learning how to do photography, wedding photography, and then eventually wedding videography through one of my best friends who taught me. So that was happening from 2010 to 2013 about.
Okay. And you were around the LA area that
whole time? LA, Orange County. And then around 2012, while I'm doing weddings, I was learning film at the same time because 2012, I think one of the wedding vendors who did video while my team did photo, he was a producer for YouTubers. So I started learning and going onto these sets as makeup artists or learning how to do camera, because there are a lot of run and gun stuff, like maybe 3 people doing like a video. So that happened around 2012. And from there, from 2012 all the way to 2018, I would believe. So I guess 6 years, I was doing a lot of ACing and all that, and camera opping. I was saying people just didn't see me as an AC. Okay. And the reason why I just fell in love with camera, because at the same time, I had a couple of people that I reached out to help me learn. You know, I was just new to the industry and all that. And I got really a negative experience because, you know, I thought I was given a chance to do something that I didn't think I would be able to do, because before film, I was never really a technical person.
Yeah, and you were getting chances to AC, is what you're saying?
To AC, but the problem is there was a couple of people that I reached out, they were really negative about it. They're like, you wouldn't be able to do this, you don't seem like the type of person, and they will tell a bunch of people, it's like, oh, this girl just doesn't look like, or she's not going to be able to do camera. So that fueled me a lot to learn. And I was like a really introverted person, which a lot of my friends will never guess that. So when I found out about people thinking negative about me, it fueled me to do more. Like, I feel like, oh wait, what?
You have a lot of fancy devices around us.
My roommates they're all camera people and all that. But what was it? So yeah, I just became more extroverted in a sense. I was like reaching out to DP. I was like, I want to learn. You know, I don't care how long it is.
Because you wanted to prove everybody wrong,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And then from there, I actually fell in love with camera because it taught me a lot that I was capable of learning a lot of technical, and I was able to like pick up a lot of things. And I started going from like just doing low budget short films to doing commercials to doing stuff for Google and all that. And every time I get a second AC, which is second assistant camera, who's like basically my assistant in the camera department who does a lot of the logistics for me, I started being able to, you know, give advice and teach younger ACs. And so I really fell in love with camera, and it let me be a part of the creative side without being like a director or a DP.
Without the pressure.
Yeah, without the pressure. And I really love being like the right-hand man to some of the DPs that I've grown really, really close with. So that's why I fell in love with camera department. And I will always go back to it because it does hold a special place in my heart. There's something that's really fun that brings me joy every time I do camera department. And there's also like a different type of pressure and stress from camera department that I do appreciate that I don't get when I do production. You know, they're two different types of stress.
What type of pressure do you get on the camera side?
You know, it's more, especially with that first AC where I pull focus, so you see everything I do on monitor. So anytime like something goes down, like a wireless, you know, something that's a little bit out of our control because of frequencies in there, you know, all those technical things, there's that kind of stress. And it's just like very like when we're on a shoot where time's crunching, you have to move along, you have to make sure your workflow is really efficient, and you know, moving from one set to another with all the heavy equipment can get really tiring as well. But what I appreciate from camera that's different from production is I start my day on set, and when I finish the day, so when I wrap, that's it. Like I literally can just rest until the next day.
Yeah.
Rather than production, I have to think about everything before we get on set, even after we finish, I'm like having to think about the next day. You know, I'm there early, first one in, last one out for production, rather than with camera, it's a different stress. Or there's a little bit more ease for me because I don't have to think about all the things. I don't have to think about other departments and all that.
It's just showing up and getting the job done.
Yeah, and I can only concentrate on my department when I'm in camera. I was like, oh, whatever happening in camera department, that's all I have to worry about. Rather, when I was like a production coordinator or a producer, I have to worry about every single department, making sure every department gets what they need. And communicating with every single department too.
So I'm sure, like, it sounds like to me that it's probably like a nice mix-up, a change of pace kind of thing for you. It's like, all right, different worries, different stresses, and different tasks, and you're more of the you're more in it to see how it's going. And I do, because I have to witness camera. I mean, as script supervisor, I witness camera a lot because I'm at Village, and I'm always feeling bad for when, like you said, when the follow focus kind of breaks, and everybody's got to put the camera down. Everybody just
like tweak,
or when Village goes down, and they're just like, they're just moving wires around. Oh, we got a signal. All right, shoot.
Especially with wireless, you know, we're converting to wireless now, and seamless builds where we don't need cables, too many cables running around. So it can get, depending on where you are, it can get really tricky sometimes. You can get some wireless issues and all that, which isn't like bad. Like, it's not impossible to solve. It just takes some time. But with production, sometimes they don't give you that time. So there's that build-on stress where they're like, why isn't it up? Why isn't it up? I was like, well,
because it's hard.
You know, we're in like a really busy area. My wireless is just trying to pick up a signal between two devices. You got to give it time. Like, let me just, you know, finagle with the build a little bit. But you got to give me that 30 seconds. And sometimes people don't like to give you 30 seconds. So there's that pending pressure on you.
I mean, it's tough because it's an out of sight, out of mind thing where we can't see what you're doing.
Yeah.
so it's hard to give you that.
Yeah, it's hard to
give you that time.
Yeah, and you know what's nice? The difference at least I feel in my personal experience is when I get to do camera again. There's this creativity that I don't really get from production because I deal with more logistics in production. Even though as a first AC, I'm a technical person. I'm like the tech for camera department. There's still some creative opportunities there, you know, especially when I work close with a DP that I've known for years. There's this collaborative thing that DP has with, like my DP have with me is like getting my opinions, like, oh, what do you think of this lens? You know, what should we use? And, you know, creatively framing, they can ask for what I think as well and all that. And I can give little suggestions to the DP I'm really close with. So there's those little creative opportunities you get in camera department rather than at least for me, my recent jobs has been production managing and coordinating. It's literally all logistics for me. It's like, okay, here's the accounting, here's invoicing, here's crew, here's their paperwork, here's like everything I need to gather to make this functional.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't really get that creativity opportunity as much as I do when I'm in camera.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know if other people, I don't know if that's across the board that everybody with that position approaches it the same way you do.
Yeah.
I don't. How did you learn all the higher end stuff? I guess was it just by like production management and producer? Was there some sort of mentor that you had that showed you the ways, or did you create your own flow and you just decide not to give creative input? Like, I don't know.
I mean, with coordinating and managing more so, you don't really get the opportunity because you're, you know, managing production and you're coordinating the production, so you do more logistics. As producers, I do get a little bit of creative opportunity as well, but, you know, at the end of the day, we're trying to make sure the production runs smoothly.
Right.
So you don't get that much opportunity, at least for me, when I work as a coordinator, production manager, or a producer that more run set rather than the creative producer, is I don't get to be near monitor as much because I'm making sure, you know, everything on set is running with the permits, with the location, and I have to be prepared for the next day too. So I don't get that opportunity to be next to monitor as much as I do as an AC.
No, right. No, I guess I imagine more of like a pre-production kind of thing because you as a producer. And I also, all right, I'll stick with my first thought. As a producer, you get to interact with the director and kind of talk story and stuff before you even get into designing the shoot.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the place to come in with any sort of creative thoughts if you feel necessary to speak up.
Yeah, definitely. I think if someone wants to go into production, at least from my experience, there's always like people calling, but going back to that, from my experience, if you want to get into production team but wants to get more into the creative side, that's more producers. So there's like associate producers, there's, you know, creative producers as well. And when you go into, at least my experience with stage show, there's like challenge producers that come up with the challenges for like game show. There's segment producers that come up with like little things that they can do during a segment or during a scene. It's like, oh, we should have them do this with a cowboy hat, or we should have them do this with flowers or something like that. So you have these creative producers on set, and you get to work closely with the director, with the studio, with the ideas, with the story as well. And then there's the logistics producers, where it's like the line producers, the production managers, and all that, and they're mainly logistics.
They just want a smooth show.
Yeah, smooth show. So then, like, I get, like, if a segment producer is like, I need a mechanical bull. Okay, well, they tell art department, and art department let me know, so I can send the paperwork to the vendor that we're renting the mechanical bull, and then, like, we're getting that sorted out. So I work closely with the creative producer to make sure they get what they need, but I don't really necessarily think about it.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good opportunity to witness others making creative decisions, and then I don't want to say judging them, but
yeah,
but learning from great ideas or kind of like how do they come to that? And it's got to be interesting.
It is very interesting, and it's also sometimes stressful because, you know, with creative ideas, sometimes they come just to you randomly. And for at least the stress that I deal with, being like production side, you know, coordinator, manager, or anything like that, is when they're like, I have an idea. This would be great for the segment. But I have to scramble to make sure we get it the next day. So I'm like, oh my God, we have to research, we have to find all this. So we're scrambling to get all the things prepared tomorrow. So there's that weird stress that you get because, you know, sometimes ideas come last minute and logistically last minute things aren't the easiest.
That is very interesting for sure. Because I always think about on the director side, like I have an issue when I'm directing. I'm a big fan of pre-production.
Yes, pre-production is great.
I'm sure we've been on too many shows where, like the smaller stuff, let's say when we're starting out or whatever, where there's no budget for anybody to meet up prior to like day one of shoot, and everybody's scrambling to just even understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And then the director's trying to like have that flexibility of like, I have an idea now, and it's like none of us prepped for that. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's not something art has. That's not anything. Whatever. So it's very.
I think it's one of my experience. So I did a short film where I had a director as well. He's trying to figure out how to play out these scenes. And I was hired as a producer. Not really so much creative because I was the only producer and I'm trying to, like, I'm basically doing the logistics for the short film. And my interesting experience with the creative side for my job, at least for this short film, was he was trying to figure things out. And I'm definitely the one person was like, well, we don't have a lot of budget for this, and so we can't really do last minute things. So I would read the script over and over again, and every revision of the script I would read over and over again. And the thing is why you have a production team at least is one of those, when you're trying to creatively play out the scene as a director or anything like that, I would come in going like, hey, do you need this? Well, in this scene, they need to eat a certain thing. Is there a particular thing that we need to get? And you have to move from one thing to like one place, like one area of a bar to another area. Like, do we need people in there? Do we need extras? Like, I have to know this ahead of time. Like, do we need certain alcohol? Is there certain brands that we're not, sponsored by that I need to make sure the art department knows to get rid of? So I'm there while my director's coming up with the creative shots and all that. Sometimes we get that one day to look at the location scout or look at the location, but I don't have my art department there because we can't afford it. It's just me and the director. For me as a producer and even my experience as a production manager, will go and he'll think of shots. I was like, okay, well, do we need to get rid of that flag? Is it a copyright thing? What do you think about that noise? How big is the space? Hey, that area is still functional. Is that okay for sound? Like, I have to ask all these questions for the director in order for me to be prepared for the day up. So we don't have any unexpected surprises. So that's usually my bit is sometimes you kind of have to think, when someone comes up with something creative, you have to be the person who thinks logistically.
You're the mood killer.
Yeah, the mood. I'm definitely the mood killer because then Art was like, I want to do this and this, and sometimes I'm like, well, here, this is how much we budgeted, and this is what we said. So if you need that additional item that's gonna cost me a certain amount of money, let's think about the scene. Like, do we really need it? I can try to pull that money from somewhere else to pay for it, but we need to really think this out before we decide to just do it, because I had to constantly remind my director, I don't have that much budget. So unless you're okay with the overage and you got to figure out where to pull that from, and I can try to save money from different areas to pay for it, be prepared that there's going to be an overage that you may have to pay out of pocket because you're funding this film.
Right.
And my thing too is I don't like saying no so much. Like I'm not no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that.
Right.
I like to assess the situation.
You're a solutions person.
Yeah, solution person where I like to assess the situation. I like to assess what the director just comes at me about. Like, we need this suddenly. I was like, well, let's think about this. How much does that cost? Okay, that costs this. Is it essential to the scene? Okay, it is. Well, we are given this much budget in this department and this department. So I can definitely do this for you. But either we're going to go over and we have to figure out where the money's coming from, or we need to cut out a scene that's not necessary in order to make time and money for the scene. So it's giving them options, but also giving them forewarning. Like, we can do that at this cost.
Right.
So then, at least then, my director or my creative producer can make a creative choice with the options they give, so they don't feel like they're sacrificing a lot. You know, I want to be as transparent and let every department head know what is happening, because I definitely want to make a really good shoot. I want to make sure we get the best that we can, and I want to make sure the vision that my director has, we're fulfilling it. But we got to be smart about it. We can't just say yes to everything, but we can't also say no and shoot ourselves in the foot before we even started, kind of thing. You know?
No, it's all great. You're preaching to the choir over here.
I had like directors like, oh, we don't have enough budget, I'm gonna cut this thing. I was like, wait, we didn't even talk to the DP yet. We didn't even talk about like how this is gonna, and you're already shooting yourself in the foot by saying like, we're getting rid of this before we even assess the situation.
Directors, okay, I guess we can talk about directors a little bit, but I'm curious because directors like to try to help make things easier for everybody else too. It's like a place where they're coming from. It's like, I'm just gonna cut it down because I know it's gonna save us time on this one day, and then really, because that's not really their job, so they're actually missing a huge point where you're not really saving us much time. Like that kind of stuff. So
my last short film I did with a director and my DP too, I remember coming to them, they're like, oh, should we cut this because to save time? And I remember telling them, I was like, okay, stop what you're doing and let me know what you need. Because you hired me for this reason. I will help you think up the logistics, you know. I can't think for you. I can't read your mind. I just need you to communicate with me what to do, because then I can help you I can help come up with a solution that makes you happy creatively, but logistically it works out for us, you know. So I have to stop directors sometimes. Like, I know you're trying to help, but the best thing you can do to help me is communicate with me and be cooperative. When we say we're short on budget and we may have to think of another solution, I want you to be open-minded about that and see what we can do together. You know, I can't. It's not like I can't, but it definitely makes production more difficult when I have creative people say, no, I definitely need this, without hearing me out. Like, creatively and logistically and budget-wise, can we even do that? Because, you know, it's going to be a nightmare once we wrap. It's going to be a nightmare for us to deal with that. But at the same time, I also want my director to know, it's like, I need you to be able to not feel restricted in your creative choices, but just know, like, I feel like nothing's impossible, but everything has a cost or a consequence to it. So if we do certain things, just be aware that this might happen, or we might have to end up giving up something else. What I like to tell my director is, like, I'm not telling you to choose one or the other. I want you to figure out in your creative storyline what is more important, and then we'll prioritize that. You know, and hopefully that will get them to think about their script more, think about their storyline, and really, really understand what they need.
That's great guidance right there. What is more important to the story?
Yeah.
Because that's something that I've noticed. Directors kind of lose track of it. It's hard to pre-edit your short while you're making it. Like, you're not really sure if it's hard to tell if you're getting what you need when you're watching the screen. So you kind of just like have to trust the process.
Yeah.
Trust everything around you and trust the people, and then it'll come together in the edit, ideally. But you said a thing where it's I need this for the story is the thing that directors like to say a lot.
Yeah.
And I notice, like you mentioned, communication too. So, and that's where pre-production comes in, of course, is ideally you have a chance to speak with the director ahead of time and understand what they actually do need, because I feel like directors throw around the word need a lot more than they need to.
Yeah.
So,
And it takes a lot of practice, at least for me. It's like understanding storyline, and me being from crew kind of helped me understand like what we actually need logistically to create a creative shot or anything like that. That I tend to talk it out with a director sometimes. It's like, I need this. It's like, why do you need this? Like, are we, like, is it important to the scene? Like, does it motivate the next scene?
and they say it's the whole movie.
Yeah, it's the whole movie. And then sometimes it's like, well, here, I need you to let me know, like, why is it important? It's like, I can do that for you, but just understand we're not gonna have time, or we're gonna have to build an extra day, and we need to find funding for that. It's like, I know some directors, like, it's like, I really need this. And if you're just going to tell me I need this for the movie, then I'm not going to just say, okay, fine. But I was like, we can do that, but I'm just letting you know, be prepared. Right. You're not going to have time for this. You're not going to have time for that because of the restriction that our set has, And sometimes, like, I literally just had a talk with one of my favorite line producers about this, is at least with our job in production, we're the bad guy. Like, we have to play bad guy sometimes, Sometimes you go in just expecting some people not to like you and not to be your friend, but, because we're going to be that person that's like, well, we don't have money, or well, we don't have time in the schedule.
Yeah.
So we either need to push it or something. Like, we're not saying no, but we're giving you the harsh reality of this is the restriction we have, and I'm constantly going to have to remind you, this is the restriction we have.
Because I don't necessarily think that has to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, the filmmakers involved understand the process and get where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, like you talked about how you appreciate transparency in the communications. You're not just going to say no, like a parent, like, no, because I said so. Like the lame excuses.
Yeah.
So the way that you approach it, I could imagine, ideally, it's an understood thing on both sides, where it's like, all right, well, I came to say my thing because this is what we're trying to do. Thanks for clarifying that we can't do that. Like, that's not really how communication goes.
Yeah, you wish, but I know, here, I understand some people who, likes to blame us for things, production, because I get it. Once you get into the creative juice, like, it's hard to get out of it. Like, you're like, you see this vision, and everyone's like, I want to do this, I need to do this. I need all of these things to make my job work, and no one wants to get blamed for their department for not being able to do what they need to do. So I get that. But I guess for me, my perspective that I try to explain to my crew is I understand that you feel pressure, every department feels pressure that they need to accomplish what they need. And, and when they're not able to get what they need, it always comes back to production because we handle the logistics.
Yeah.
But I always remind people, it's like, please understand, I'm trying to help you, but I'm also trying to help 10 other different departments right now. And I want to make sure I get a happy medium for everyone, right? Because for me, it's like, I can make camera department really happy, but if I pull so much money for camera department and not leave anything for my art department, we're going to shoot in an empty room. And it's not going to look coherent, because I believe every department is important, that we can collab and make a great great product out of it. But understand, every department's important, because we can have really nice equipment for camera and lighting, but if I don't have money for props, and it just looks
there's a classic meme about that, right? Have you seen the one with the illustrations of there's a bank teller, and then the woman, or there's a robber and then the bank teller, and then it's without art, and then it removes the gun and it removes the glass, and then it kind of goes through without continuity, without
all these, and it's and I get it. It's we can have a lot of fancy furniture for art department and wardrobe, but if I don't get the right camera equipment, it's not gonna. If we can't light it, I'm not gonna be able to see it. So my thing is we can balance every department's important, but we just need to make sure everyone's on the same page. And my biggest thing is communications. You need to let me know what you need, and we'll figure it out. Don't feel like you're pressured to sacrifice something. Don't feel like you need to demand all of these things. It's and that we're not hearing out your request. Like we are, it's just we need to communicate in order to make sure we're getting the most efficient solution, that's best for the project, for everyone as well.
Yeah. So I guess this could be a nice little advice segment. You kind of said advice there, where communication is key, understanding is key. But is there something that kind of continually happens that you're kind of surprised continually happens and it's not helpful in any way?
Yes. So one of my biggest thing I had, even when I was working as an AC and I have a second AC that was stressing out, or when I'm working in production, I have some of my production team do was as as difficult as it is to stay calm when everyone's kind of yelling at you for everything. I feel like
Who's yelling at who in this scenario?
Let me see. Here, as a production coordinator, so my little scenario is, as a production manager or coordinator, I'm trying to do something, and and when you have different departments going, it's like, I need this, I need that, and like being very aggressive sometimes. I feel like as difficult as it is, you gotta stay calm. You gotta be the calm one, and because I've seen too many of my peers sometimes yelling and being irrational. And the thing that I notice with people is when you start getting frustrated with someone as a production person, right? Like let's take an example. Like let's say my line producer gets really frustrated and start yelling at someone. What's that gonna cause is they get defensive. Like if you're yelling at like if my line producer is yelling at my production designer, the production designer is gonna feel very self-defensive. They're gonna start yelling back. And it becomes a screaming battle, and there's no communication, and we are not going to come up with a solution. And basically, it creates this tension throughout the shoot where my production designer just doesn't trust production team because they're like, well, you're just being irrational. You're not hearing to my demands and all that. And my biggest advice to any filmmakers, like, you got to stay calm because, the shoot can go on, but us yelling at each other and pointing blame, it's not going to come up with a solution. So for me as a production manager, like I had to stay calm and people yell. I'm just like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm letting you know now, this is the restriction we have. The thing you wanted to order, the earliest I can get it is tomorrow. There's nothing I can do unless we charge an extra $200 for someone to pick it up, and that's going to come out of your budget, our budget. I can arrange that. But I can't make this happen any faster for you. And you gotta let me know what you want to do. And you have to stay calm throughout those manners.
Sure.
Even my other example is when I was at first AC and I had a second that was very like, I'm so stressed out. I was like, calm down. Is the camera okay? Yeah. Is everything up? Okay. There's no need to panic because the moment you panic, we start making little mistakes. We're starting to now we forget our cards. Now we forget the battery's dying and it shut off in the middle of a shot. Like I was like, you gotta stay calm. I was like, yelling at me yelling at you is not gonna make the camera problem go away. It's just wasting more time. So instead of yelling, instead of pointing blame, let's just go, what's the problem? What's the solution? We'll deal with whoever did it later.
Yeah.
We just need to get this up now. And I can't do that if you're just going to spend most of the time screaming at me. So just calm down.
It's easier said than done.
It's definitely easier said than done.
For even the best of us. I know, all right, I'm trying to think. Oh, where did I want to go with that? My thought was it takes a certain awareness to keep in control during those moments. And I don't know, like I've been reading a book on like meditation. So I feel like that's kind of the direction you want people to go, is being able to control their thoughts and being this outward awareness of like what's going on around you. Is this important? Where to put your attention and understanding the scenario. But that takes time to like stop and think.
Yeah. If I can say at least what helped with me is
Sure.
every set that has been very stressful and that has been pushing me to the limit. At the end of every set, I don't just go, I hate this. This is the worst shoot. I was like, of course, it could be really, really bad. But I feel like what I gain from each shoot, at least what I start switching the way I think, is after every shoot, no matter how good, no matter how bad, no matter how low budget, I think about it in this way. What did I learn from it? I can gain something from it. Basically, it's like, well, this has stressed me out too much during this scene. So I need to figure out a way to not escalate, not have that escalate for next time. So I think it's always evaluating after every set what you did, how your workflow is, and figure out ways that can make it better to make you calm. And honestly, it takes a lot of practice because I always tell when I had an AC that was stressing out, I was like, I can't really tell you how to calm down and not let it get to you because every person is different. And I was like, you gotta figure something that calms you down. Sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it's literally, I would tell AC is like, go outside and just take a deep breath, get some fresh air.
Say have a smoke.
Yeah, some people do have a smoke.
No.
I was like, go smoke during our we're standing by for 15 minutes. Go take a break. Go take a breather. And sometimes it's like we've been in this house for too long shooting these scenes, and it's been very, very stuffy. Go outside, clear your head, take that. And sometimes it's like, hey, you seem stressed. What do you like? If chocolate calms you down, have a piece of chocolate. And I actually had a production manager that I coordinate a lot. When we're stressed, we have these little weird things that calm us down a little bit that helps us cope with our stress. And one of hers was eating chocolate and mints. So I remember one time she was sitting there and she was looking so stressed, and I was going to the kitchen to get something. I'll drop little chocolates for her, and then she'll eat that when she feels really, really stressed out.
Yeah.
And my thing during that show was I like to drink apple cider, hot apple cider that we had in the crafty table. And when I get really stressed out, I drink that. So she'll make apple cider for me. So I was little things that helps you cope with it.
Yeah, it's very nice of you.
Yeah, and then also it's you just need to know that you need to discipline yourself. After every shoot, there's things that you can learn, things that you can be better at, And one little mistake you did on a shoot or one little mishap on a shoot where you get so frustrated, you can learn from that and you can cope with it better for the next shoot. Because I always feel and I tell people, no production's worth killing yourself over. So just take a deep breath. If you need to walk away from a shoot, because it's mentally draining you and you're going to ruin your relationship with a DP or a director. Sometimes it's just taking that step away for a little bit, and as long as you let people know okay, this is my limit, I can only do this, and you recognizing it in yourself helps you be better and helps you build more tolerance and more discipline for the next shoot. And it's all a learning process.
No, for sure. I guess what I was thinking about when you were going through all that was, of course, I was thinking about my own experience.
Yeah.
I think, and you kind of went through a similar track. The more experience you have, even in just different departments, the more knowledge you have on what everybody else around you is doing, and that gives you a lot more insight into assessing a situation. Because I think I made I was doing a lot of short films in Reno, Nevada before I moved, and that helped build up my confidence on just understanding what the process is like. And it was basically student film type of stuff, zero budget, just making stuff with all my friends and all that. But I think without just the hours on set and just feeling the stress over and over again, it's hard to really make it normal. You have to just normalize that feeling, otherwise you'll have that stress every time you land on set.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I feel filmmaking is definitely not a walk in a park, and it does take a certain discipline to handle certain things. And and I think what people need to understand is you can go at your own pace. You don't have to feel you can handle this all the time. And You know, I like to think we're human. We have our limits. We have our stress point, and it's okay to recognize that. And once you recognize that, don't beat yourself up about it. Just recognize what can you do to help with it next time, you know? And another thing I like to think about too is I think you gotta learn how to be really good judgment of character, because there's a difference between a really bad production, like as an example, there's a difference between a really bad production person who's just irrational, who's just not treating crew right, but at the same time, a production person who's trying their best, but they have their hands tied because of the logistics and the restriction given to us. So we have to recognize who they are, because too many times where I feel like people go like, oh, production is just bad. I was like, are they bad, or are they giving restriction that they're trying to make it work? And we as crew members, like me as like an AC, can't see that because we're not in their shoes. We're not dealing with locations. We're not dealing with permits. So I don't know what's going on you know, their side, you know?
Yeah, because if they had one bad experience with an individual in that same position, and now they just apply it to everybody else.
Where it's like, now you just assume that producer is bad when they're not actually bad. They just have their hands tied. As in, they want to help you, but they can't because of the restriction given to them. And that's me saying from my experience going from crew member to production. But at the same time, I also have to remind some production people where they're like, well, crew is demanding all this, blah, 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 you know? And for me, I was like, well, hold on. Like, they're not just irrational people. As someone who came from AC, I can see why they need these things, you know? Because of the demands of, like, the shot. And they're not just demanding it for no reason, you know? They could be actually needing a certain piece of equipment because of a safety thing that as production people, because we're not in camera, we don't know about. But at the same time, there are people who are demanding for no reason. So I think it's one of those, you have to be you have to practice being good at judging characters, judging like what other departments going through, you know? So then we don't make a rash decision, or we don't make a rash judgment of a crew member just because we're like, well, they're being irrational. It's like, are they? What are they doing? Like, what is the situation? What is the shoot happening? And I like to tell a lot of my crew members, be very aware of what's happening on set. Always keep your ears and eyes open. Even if you're on standby, even if we're like standing by for like an hour because we have to reset something, always have your ears and eyes open, because you need to see what's going on with the shoot. You know, what are the restrictions that this production seems to have? Is it location restriction? Is it permit restriction? Is it like a SAG thing that we're restricted on? Like, what are the things that are making each department's job difficult? And for that, once we're aware of like what is happening, we can make a better sense of judgment of the crew, as well as what we decide to do next, where we're like, okay, I see that it's a permit issue, then I need to, like, if I was in camera, I see we have this weird permit issue, then I'm going to assess what my workflow is. Like, do we need this shot? Do we need this piece of equipment for this shot? And is there a way I could make it work so it's not, you know, violating our permits or something like that? So it's like these little things that you can help move the set along. And I feel like as much as our job is very important in our department, I think film can be very collaborative. And I think everyone can help each other make this go, because at the end of the day, no matter what stress we have on set, once we have the final product on screen, don't we want to say, like, we're very proud of what we did. Despite of all the stress, we did it together, we made it work. And it's something that we're proud to say that I worked on that.
Yeah, that's the ideal.
That's the ideal.
Yeah, and I like your advice on having your eyes and ears open, even if you're technically like not doing anything. I feel like that's almost like the advice. I mean, I feel like every member of the crew can benefit from that advice, and I think it's super additionally necessary for those that are just starting out, especially, let's say, on the production side, the PAs. Like, that's PA. Like, awesome PA number one is the production assistant that's like going and doing things before they're even told to do it, because they know like that's a need that's coming. Like, I think it's a great skill to
Yeah, it's a.
master.
So I have like some like
Uh,
scenarios that I gave
sure.
advice to when I was like keep your eyes and ears open.
Yeah.
Is when I was a first AC, even if I'm a standby, because I was like, okay, art needs to reset. I'm not gonna. We don't need camera up for another 30 minutes, right? It's just we're standing by. But I like to keep my eyes and ears open because I can hear it's like, okay, you know what, art's gonna do like something a little bit different. They're gonna splash something. So then I'll tell my second, I was like, okay, well, let's get our camera let's get a camera bag ready because we don't want it to splash on our camera. Let's just be prepared for that. Let's get a clear filter on so it doesn't get on the lens. Let's just be prepared. I don't know how much they're splashing this blood, but let's just be prepared because I'm listening to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And what they're prepping, so I need to prep on my side.
The classic blood splash.
Yeah, blood splash. And then another thing that I actually recently told an AC to do is blocking, right? When the director blocks with an actor, basically seeing what the movement of the shoot's
scene.
gonna be, of the scene's gonna be, I like to listen in because then I could prepare my second. So when we're talking about blocking and we're talking about the framing, like when my cinematographer, my DP, talks with the director, this is the frame we're going to do first, I can just listen and I'll radio to my second. I was like, hey, it looks like we're going to go low angle, so let's get the hi-hat ready. It looks like they're going to go with a wide. He tends to like 24, so I'll have the 24 millimeter lens ready, maybe the 35 just in case, depending on how he wants to frame it. So the moment they finish blocking out the frame or scene, my DP looks over and I already have all the stuff ready for him. And it's like, I'm already prepared for that. And that goes where we're shooting and my AD, can say, okay, we're on our last shot for the scene. And then I will go with, as a camera person, I'll go up to the AD. It's like, hey, we're doing this last take, for the scene. Where are we moving to? And they're like, okay, we're going to move in that room first.
Right.
And I was like, oh, and then we're going to see everything in that room? And they're like, yeah, okay. So then I go to my second. I was like, hey, we're moving on to this room. It looks like we're going to shoot pretty much 360 of it. So why don't we put all of our gear, prep it to be moved to outside over here. It looks like they're not going to see it out there. And let's just make sure we're ready to move over.
Yeah, or you'll check with the AD to see where it can be moved.
Yeah, be moved and stuff. And I was like, hey, it's a tight space. We don't need our cart. Let's move our cart out of the way. But I always tell my second, don't do it now. Just be prepared that's where we're gonna move. So what it ends up being is like our department looks really efficient because we're always on time. We're always prepared. We're not asking too many questions because the moment you move from another scene to another, like one scene to another, every department's scrambling. The AD is going to be bombarded with a lot of questions. So if I can be ahead of the game by listening to what's going on, at least with our department, we're not confused. We know what to do. We're not waiting around. We're already like moving. We're already doing things that we need to do to make this production go. So similar to like a PA, like if you're standing there and we're going to reset and there's like, we need to reset and there's like splashes everywhere. Oh, okay. Well, my PA knows to go get a paper towel because we know we're going to have to clean up, or something like that.
Yeah. Because I know, I guess like, let's say I moved to LA recently, 2 years ago, right? And I've had other buddies come down and I've had the chance to meet a lot of new people in film. And I guess to talk about the stress stuff, or not really about the kind of like not really the unawareness of what's going on set. I think potentially leads to people giving up on sometimes their dream ahead of time because they're being asked to do things. They don't understand why they're being asked to do things, and they just think that they're being over. Like, I don't know. It could be the case where a producer or an AD is giving a PA more tasks than they can handle just because there's one PA on this shoot and it's like, we need all this stuff done. But then that PA goes home thinking like, oh my gosh, that was a horrible experience. I just did all this stuff. I don't feel like I was appreciated. And I don't know if that's because that was actually the case or because maybe it was actually stuff that was legitimately okay to be asked of them.
Yeah.
It's just the inexperience.
So that's tough to say because
Yeah.
like you won't know what is overly demanding for your role until you get more experience, until you work with different sets and you get different insight from different people who've been in the game for a while, you know? And all that, because even now, like, I have PAs that work with me before as a coordinator or manager. I have PAs who work with other people. Actually, let me backtrack that. My short film, I hired a production coordinator, and I was the producer, or I guess production manager, you can say. She's still new, relatively new. She just did a couple of things where she wasn't sure if the producer was new or too demanding, or was she doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So she asked for my insight, and I was like, well, here, this is what you are supposed to do. This is things that you can do on set to be more efficient. And then I told her this is where it gets a little bit too demanding because it's not really your role to do so.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also told her at the same time, if you're doing a low budget things where you don't actually have like a coordinator or a line producer,
Yeah, there's
so
the lines are blurred.
Yeah, the lines are blurred a little bit, and I just told her as long as you communicate with them, it's like, okay, I can do that, but I need an extra hand. Like, don't be afraid to speak up when you need an extra hand because, you know, it's gonna be on you if you promise too much and you know you couldn't handle that, you know? And it's similar to like something I always say to someone, it's like, if you know for sure like it's a safety thing or it's definitely you can't do, no one's gonna remember when you say no to them, or like when you say, hey, you can't do that because of safety thing, and things work out, but they'll remember when you say yes and everything fucked up, and they will remember that for the rest, like for many years. So you gotta like speak up when you find something that's a little bit that you feel like it's not right,
even
you know?
if you're not sure, just saying it just in case.
Yeah,
sounds,
just vocalize it, saying like, "Hey, I'm not sure. Like, it that seemed like a two-person thing to do," and you know, it is definitely tough. And for people who feel unappreciated, you know, set can be kind of intense sometimes. Sometimes people are yelling at each other and they don't mean it. You can't take things personally, even though some people do. Like, you just can't take things personally. People are gonna yell. People are sometimes gonna go like, "Oh my God, I need this," and I don't think they're being directly mean to you. Sometimes I think they're just in the moment of panic, like we just need to get things done. That even if you feel like you're not doing much, you feel like it's not gonna go anywhere, you feel like you're unappreciated. I would say from my personal experience, someone's gonna be watching. Even if it's a low budget film, you never know who's going to be watching you. And if you have that upbeat attitude and you're just doing things, you're doing the best you can, someone's going to take notice. And, you know, I've done a lot of low budget things that I didn't think that would go anywhere. And honestly, it took one person to notice me and to get me to where I am. So you never know how that's going to happen. And actually, there's a funny story how that happened to me.
Okay.
Is I was at first AC, for like really low budget features where we're doing like 10 days and it was just gnarly, and you know, and it really pushed me to my limit, but I try to stay positive, I try to be helpful. There's this one key PA in this shoot that I was always trying to help them out, and every time I was like, hey, can you help me with this? And I would say, thank you, you're awesome. You know, thank you for helping me move my cart. And like every time he's taping something, it's like, hey, I have some gaff tape. Here you go. You know, it's a PA. Even though I'm an AC, I don't mind him using gaff tape. I say, hey, do you need help? Like, I'll help him safety if we're in the same area. But we were basically helping each other out.
Yeah.
And he's only known me as an AC. But we talked a couple times where he's like, hey, what did you want to be an AC? I was like, actually, I want to move on to production. You know, I'm trying to coordinate a little bit. I coordinate a little bit of this thing, but, all that. Fast forward a year later or 2 years later after ACing on sets with him as a key PA for many years.
Okay.
2 years later, I get a call from a production manager saying, like, I'm doing this union show for a really reputable company. And I got your and he's like, I'm looking for a production coordinator. And I got your recommendation from blank. And it turns out it was a key PA that I worked with. And he threw my name into the pile, even though he's never really worked with me as a coordinator before. He just knows, he liked the way I worked, and he liked how efficient I was in my camera department. He's like, you were really good logistically as an AC. He's like, I have confidence that you're going to be a good coordinator. So he threw my resume in. And, and I got the job. I end up doing this. I end up coordinating for this union music special. And from then on, that person that called me up for it, I end up doing a lot of union shows with them. And that's how I am. And I'm doing stuff for like Warner Brothers, for CBS. And it's all because one freaking key PA noticed me, and I just didn't think of anything. We're just helping each other out. And 2 years later, he gave me the biggest opportunity of my life. And it's crazy how, and then from there, I've been busy with production.
That was your big break.
Yeah, my big break. And you just never know. It doesn't always have to be a producer. It doesn't always have to be like the big headshot that noticed you. Hell, like one of the crazy film that I got to work with was a AD that liked how I worked, and he's like, you want to be my second? And I only worked with him as an AC, but he found out I wanted to do coordinating stuff. So, and I didn't hear from him till like 8 months later, and just randomly he's like, I have this feature, you want to work on it as production? I was like, sure. And it's just an AD. Sometimes it's just a PA who knows someone who can throw your name in. Like, you just never know who's watching. So my biggest advice is like, just when you're on set, do your best, have a good attitude, because even though it seems like this production could be really shitty for you, you never know what opportunity it might open. It may not open many doors. It may open a lot of doors, but
you don't know.
And at the point of your career, you're trying to build a career. You have nothing to lose at that point.
And it just makes the experience enjoyable.
Yeah, it just makes it, like, to be honest,
have fun, be awesome, keep getting better, and then whatever happens.
Yeah.
And then, like, that's just that's definitely the way it goes, and I've had similar experiences too. And I mean, that's just how it works.
Just how it works. And someone has once said I'm a very happy AC, but I did tell them it takes time to get here. It wasn't like something that happened overnight. I have set that has pushed me to the limit. I have set where I just wanted to quit, and it was a hard, long crawl to be able to have high tolerance for certain stress. But I think if you keep pushing at it, you'll get there, And especially for young filmmakers starting out, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy the first few years of your career, because you're literally trying to network. You're trying to build experience. You're trying to find the right people. You're going to sometimes get screwed over by certain people, and sometimes you're going to meet the best crew you ever worked with. But it's going to be a hard few years of really learning a lot about you as a filmmaker, and learning about the film industry in general, and building tolerance for certain things, building, and all that. So it's going to be hard, but as long as you push through it, I think eventually, you never know when you get that big break sometimes.
Yeah. So with that being said, I want to transition a tiny bit out of production in general into some specific experiences that you've had, and seeing if you have anything, I guess, to reminisce about. Because when I Google you and find the one video interview that you do have up, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Gook? Yeah, that feature.
Yeah, it was 2017.
Oh, yeah,
you did like a 5-minute interview, and you were a co-producer on that.
I was a co-producer for a Justin Chon movie, Gook, that went to Sundance.
Yeah, so I was curious. Yeah, because which is very cool. Getting to Sundance is cool. And you mentioned, like, I don't know if that was like a bouncing board into producer for you, or how much producing you had done before. But like, I don't know if there's anything in particular with that project that you look back on. But it seems like a because you continued working with this director.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It was quite interesting because I was still doing camera stuff.
Yeah.
I was kind of treading the waters of production. And the thing I learned about that is, honestly, it was like I did it for free. I was helping out, and
for the experience.
Yeah, for the experience, and I didn't know where that was gonna go. And you know what? The thing I look back and I tell a lot of people was like, I didn't know where that was gonna go. I didn't know if it was successful or not. Like all of us didn't know.
Sure.
Like we knew we wanted to go to Sundance. We were trying our best, and we had a lot of obstacles and restriction on that set. And I feel like I see a lot of people getting too picky with shoots where they're like, oh, I'm not making enough money, or like blah blah blah. I was like, you know what? I did it because I think I just never know where this is gonna take me, and it'll be great to work with someone new and all that. And I didn't regret helping out with that because it did open a lot of doors, and I didn't expect that. So
Sure.
I think looking back, it's one of those, I could have said no, but I didn't. Even though like I felt like I wasn't gaining a lot from it, like monetary stuff and all that, but it was a great opportunity to work with Justin, and you just never know what's going to take. And I don't know, like it may have not taken anywhere, but I decided to take that risk and just do it, and it kind of worked out.
So what? I guess with that being said, because that is an interesting scenario, because I'm sure that happens more often than not on like somebody's putting together a shoot and there's not much to work with. This is like the passion project, and this is the goals for it. What was the pitch that brought you involved? That brought you like, what's the story about? And I don't know how do you want to answer that?
It's quite interesting because back then I literally was just like, oh, okay, if I have free time, I'll do whatever. Like I just want to work in film. I want to learn more. They told me it was a film concentrated with Asian American cast and the Black community too. So we are having leads from the two minorities that aren't really heavily represented in Hollywood. So I was like, I like that. I do want to work on a passion project where it promotes more Asian leads. It promotes more Black lead that's not stereotypical roles for them.
It's a little different.
It's a little different, and we're able to see that on screen. I like we can have minorities on screen carrying the whole story, where we don't need the Hollywood typical leading lady or leading man to carry the story. So that really appeals to me. And honestly, as much as people like, oh, passion project, like you never know what's gonna happen. At that time, I was like, if I have free time, I'll do any passion project for like people I know or people that need help, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to see how this goes. Maybe it'll take me somewhere, maybe it doesn't. To be honest, only 1 out of 10 passion projects actually did something for me. And those aren't really great odds, but you know what? That's still a chance. And it's better than me not doing anything.
Yeah, and then I guess it leads back into the last advice you were talking about too, is like if you just approach it with being awesome and doing a great job and having fun, whether the project as a whole is successful, there's still individuals involved where you don't know where they're going to go next. You don't know. Like if you're somebody that's worth working with, that could splinter off into
many things. And honestly, there's some shoots where it didn't go anywhere, but I learned a lot of like how I should do workflow. I learned a lot about like paperwork. I learned a lot about like how the process is for certain things in filmmaking that, like the project didn't really go anywhere, but I learned a lot, and it actually helped me on my next project, And for me, I always feel like 10% chance of getting a big opportunity is better than 0% chance of me just not doing anything. Me just waiting for opportunity to happen, it's gonna take a long time, but me putting myself in opportunities
ups the chances there.
Increases.
Yeah, and I guess the reason I bring up that one too, not only because it's the only recorded interview that I could find.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of interviews.
No, which is cool, but you transitioned from co-producer on that into, I believe, was it his next film, Ms. Purple?
Yes, I was still a co-producer on that one.
I thought you were a producer on that. Were you co?
I believe I was still co.
Okay.
I was still co-producer on that, but it's kind of weird looking back on those films where I'm like co-producer, where I was just like, I guess you could say baby to the production life, to the production team, to doing all those things, and where I am now with all the experience I have is just like it's kind of gnarly, because if you think about it, the first film with Justin Gook was 2017. That's only 3 years ago.
Right. But that's when it came out.
Yeah,
right?
That's when it came out. I think, because we worked on it towards the end of 2016. Like, it was just a short period
and then Miss Purple came out last year.
Yeah. Well, 2 years
2019.
ago? Oh, 2019? Was it?
That's what I looked up, and that's when he was kind of doing some rounds. But it might have been
2018 when we filmed it. And it's crazy to see how much has changed in just 2 to 3 years. And even though, like, I look back at my experience in that, I was like, man, I was really new to this. And I wish I had the knowledge I had now doing that. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'm glad I did it. I gained a lot of experience, and I wouldn't be where I am now without all the little experience I have on every single set that I have.
Okay. I guess with that being said, what, this might be too vague or too big of a question, but is there a particular experience or production that you were a part of that feels like I got a lot out of this in every aspect of my journey?
There was 2. Someone asked me this question before, and there was 2 interesting experience I had. I'm trying to remember.
Or like what? Or I guess I'll let you think. Yeah.
I think one of my first experience was my first union show. I guess I'm gonna speak as a production side, because I can't remember what was that one event I had when I was a camera person that really like changed my life. But I remember as production was my first union music special, because that was like a whole world. I had no freaking idea I was getting myself into.
And that's the one that you got thrown into where the key PA recommended you. Is that the same one?
Yeah. Okay. And I was like, oh my god, union stage show, like there's so many things I didn't know that applied to this. I was like, what is this? Like all these union paperwork, like I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know the extent of it. And it's funny, that changed my life, like just like was a big impact on me, was I remember I was slowly doing production for that. I was slowly doing production before that. And I remember one of my big, so the thing I do is like every year, at some point in my career, I create a goal. I was like, I'm going to do a union show. I've never done a union show as a coordinator. I'm going to try to do it, or I'm going to do an international show, because I want to know how to like coordinate with international people with different countries, So that year, in the beginning of the year, I was coordinating some of these smaller shows, and also a Netflix show, but they were non-union. And I remember going and like, okay, I'm getting more experience.
I mean, that's so cool though. Just
yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I want to do a union show, because that's something I haven't had experience with, and I just want that opportunity. And lo and behold, I get a call. And I was like, you want to do this music special? It's union. I was like, yes. Like, I did not hesitate. I had no freaking idea what I was doing in union show, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply what I know and learn and ask questions along the way to my production manager, who was amazing, by the way, who helped me along the way. My line producer, my production manager, adored them so much, because they really helped me with all the questions I have. Did that union show, and oh my god, I have learned so much from it. I have learned not only how set was worked, how set was run as a union stage show.
That was your first stage show in general, or have you been on stage shows in other positions?
No,
prior?
I've only worked on one stage show before that, but it was a non-union production coordinator. but they were already on like the 5th season, so it wasn't like I worked from it from ground up. Yeah. So this was my first ground up kind of stage show. And I learned a lot. I not only learned how film ran, like production ran for union and all that, like all the little details with IATSE, all the little details with SAG, all the little details with vendors, and working for a network company, like all the accounting details. Like I got to learn that. But two, I got to learn a lot of discipline in myself, trying to figure out how to cope with a lot of stress, because it was a different kind of stress that I've never experienced before. And I learned how to communicate really well. And that shoot taught me how to be very vocal. Like I can't be shy. Like I have to be very vocal as a coordinator. I have to go like, you can't do this, or hey, we can do this, or I need this information from you, and just not being too scared to approach a crew member.
Yeah, because they're almost in that scenario. Are you talking like you had to learn that skill because those problems weren't necessarily being brought directly to you, so you had to go and approach them?
Yeah, approach them, and I was giving more responsibilities than I did before all my other shoots. And what I learned too is like doing all these union shows and learning the procedures that we have, the hierarchy and all that.
That's weird.
It helped. It was weird. But I realized I have to be very efficient on these shows. Like, everything has to be planned out to the detail. Like, okay, the maps have to be laid out, all the layout maps, like, where are we placing trucks? Where are we doing all these things? And it's like this whole new responsibility that I had. Even doing my first game show, union game show, I had to think of all these little details that I never thought about before. That when I actually came back this year and did a narrative short for the first time in many years, I was able to organize things that I never got to experience during narrative as crew members, because as crew member, we show up, we're like, okay, where do things go, you know? But I got to apply my knowledge from the union shows where I start making maps. I was like, okay, every crew is going here. You see the layout. I know all these things that we need. I plan these out. So it actually ran relatively smooth compared to a lot of narrative I've done before.
Yeah.
And it's all because of these little experience I applied from my union show.
Yeah.
That I didn't think I could apply to narrative. I could. Just little details that I could apply. Yeah.
For sure. It sounds like, I mean, I'm thinking about coming back to narrative after doing union. What brought you, what was the biggest surprise, I guess, from coming back and realizing how unorganized narrative non-union
could be. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
It's one of those. I actually had a conversation with the DP of my short film about this. It's one of those, what people don't realize, just that little extra effort can go a long way. And I realized sometimes, you be on set, on a narrative set, where people are like, well, I only do this, I only do that, And for me, the difference is, like, what opened my eyes when it comes to narrative is like, oh my God, I didn't realize before in narrative, I can think about all these little details as production. And if I had those handled during pre-production, we can actually run really smooth. And it's literally, and I was like, it's something that I didn't experience with narrative. It's like just me taking that extra effort to think about what the little details that my art department needs, little details that my camera department needs,
sure.
Or even little details when it comes to sending crew information. It's like making a little map of a layout. It's like trucks goes here,
that's what
base
I was
camp.
thinking about primarily.
Yeah, like base camp goes here and all this. And like sometimes call sheet, people are like, this is where you're going to show up this time, this is the parking. But I realized, like, doing the union show, I can add more details. Like, remember to wear this because the temperature is going to be this much. It's like, be prepared for this, be prepared for that. And just sending little details, little small details I never thought about before and applying it to my narrative shoots. I think it's what helps is everyone is on the same page when we go to set. Like everyone knows where everything is. Everyone knows the safety rules. Everyone knows like these are the restrictions we have. These are like the areas that we're allowed in. These are the areas we're not allowed in. And with COVID, it's like, okay, these are the things that you have to do on set. These are the protective gear you have to put on set. And just being overly prepared like I was when on my union show, taking that little effort to be overly prepared and very communicative in my narrative film, I would say the short film, I was surprised of how organized it was.
Well,
like, there was no issues.
It's almost like it's not very surprising at all.
Yeah.
that stuff helps.
Yeah.
Because there's like kind of the joke with call sheets and emails too, where like I know the ADs joke about it a lot with like,
no one reads it.
Yeah, no one reads
Yeah.
it. So then you get questions on the day, and it's like, oh, it's on the call sheet. It's on the call sheet. Check the email.
There's actually, it was one of the funny things on the narrative short that my production manager was like, oh, I never thought about that. Is when I told her, it's like, hey, you have a little extra budget on production side for production supplies. Why don't we go to, there's a store, Daiso, where everything's $150. I was like, bring some hand warmers. Can you buy some hand warmers before our shoot? Today, buy some hand warmers and buy these like $1 gloves. And she's like, how many? I was like, buy 10 or whatever. We have a small crew. And she's like, why? I was like, well, we're going to be out on the lake. It's going to be like 30 degrees. It's going to be very cold. And I told her, even though I told my second AD, put on the call sheet, and I told her to emphasize it in bold, it's going to be cold, bring warm clothes. I told my production manager, someone's going to freaking forget to bring gloves, and someone's going to be very cold. So let's get it. And lo and behold, on set, all the gloves were taken because there's a bunch of people who forgot to bring gloves because it was way too cold. And I was like, see, we're prepared for that.
We're not used to having cold out here.
Yeah. And then I was like, I know someone's not going to read the call sheet and someone's going to forget. It's going to be cold.
So you're even planning for that, which is,
Exactly. And then little things like I had extra budget. I was like, there are these $10 little table portable heaters, and I was like, we're gonna be eating outside for our last day. It's gonna be very cold and someone's gonna complain. Let's just put a table heater on each table. We have money to spare. Let's just do that. And it just felt really, it's the little effort that we think that makes crew think like we're a lot prepared. Like, well, we're really an efficient set. And it's just, it wasn't like that crazy of a thought. We were just like, okay, it's going to be cold. We should get heaters.
Yeah.
All those little things.
No, for sure. No, that's awesome. I like, it makes sense that the little things matter. Attention to detail matters. So it makes sense to me. It sounds like awesome stuff that you were doing. I'm trying to read my notes and talk to you at the same time.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I wanted to transition again more fully out of, or let's talk about, we can either stay in here, I'll give you an option. Do you want to talk about experience crowdfunding, or do you want to talk about Los Angeles living and friends and birthdays?
We can talk about Los Angeles because crowdfunding, I'm not really too experienced with.
Great.
It was more of my creative producers. Like, usually people come to me with passion project, and they're, I give them a little bit of advice what they should pitch to their crowdfunding, but I don't really...
As far as, like, creation of the videos?
Creation of the videos or what they should talk about and stuff, but I'm not really hands-on with crowdfunding.
Yeah, you're not really managing the thing, it's just...
Yeah, I literally tell them, this is how much budget you should get, so I just try to find that somehow.
It's almost like a line producer.
Yeah, I'm more of that.
All right, so let's transition out of production a little bit, I guess. It still kind of leaks into everyday life, but talking about, I guess, like Los Angeles living and freelance life and how you approach it, because you've been doing it for a while. I'm assuming. I don't know your full life, but...
I've done odd jobs during, like, senior year of high school. Well, since I was 16, I did odd jobs all the way to college, and then I ended up doing, freelancing filmmaking in LA. And I can say it was really, really hard. I have people coming here think, Hollywood dreams, you can just get into it and go really far up in the ladder.
Sure.
And the harsh reality is, like, it's hard. It was the hardest few years of my life, literally. Like, I would say, like, credit card debt, like, just all those, like, crazy
Sure.
things.
And you're saying the moments transitioning from high
From
school, on the odd job,
from the odd job, from the odd stable jobs to, like, I'm gonna be a freelance filmmaker.
What is an odd stable job? What is that?
I worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time when I was in college to support myself in college. So I worked in retail at a little, like, comic book store and all that, and I was like a secretary for a law firm, just doing little things, kind of like 9 to 5 jobs part time. I also was like a laser engraving tech for like a little laser engraving shop.
Okay.
So those are
is
one
that
of
like
those.
one of those mall spots where you get
Where you could come in and laser engrave your little things, and I was the tech for it, just in case anyone has like programming issues or laser engraving issues. And I used to work at like a factory putting together like wire parts for like airplanes for my uncle, just like little odd jobs that were more consistent. Like I'll come in, like I had an actual set schedule. I'll come in, I'll work, I'll get like a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All that, and that, going from there to like freelancing, filmmaking, and weddings photography and videography, where there's really no set schedule a week. It's basically whatever projects come about.
Yeah.
And you just gonna have to take it. Sometimes you can have a really good time with workflow, like with work flowing in, where you could be working every weekend, every week, almost every day, till like 4 months of no work, and you're just like, oh my god, that's really daunting to think about. It's really, really difficult, but but then I just kept reminding myself, like, I really like this. I can't do. I'm not the type of person who can do office jobs, so I just gotta push through it. Like it
So
sucks.
had you had the chance to work an office job before, or do you just know inherently that it wouldn't be a good fit?
I worked at a law firm as a secretary.
Right,
when I was just like calling insurance every day, doing the same thing. Files come in, I look at the files, I'll do all the necessary paperwork.
And how long was that one for?
That was for 2 years.
Okay, that's enough time to know.
Yeah, that's definitely enough time to know. So I was doing that, and then freelancing. It's just like, I think the stress and difficult part of it was, I think my love for the creative process and my love for the experience I got on set overcame the stress of like the freelance life, where it's not stable. I don't know when my next job is, especially starting out when I don't have that much experience to do the bigger stuff. Just my love for what I get to do every day kind of helped mentally push me through the difficult times.
Yeah.
Especially in LA, where there's just so many people applying for the same job as you. You just like, there's just a lot of competition out here.
It's just a numbers game at some point too.
Yeah.
So all right, so you were transitioning into film life there, and then now that you've had a chance to kind of, I don't want to say like coast. Coast makes it sound like it's easy.
Yeah.
But now that you're a little bit more, I'll call it stable.
Yeah.
How does that play into friends?
So
how has friendship evolved through all of that?
It's so crazy. When I was younger, I don't really have that many friends, or I just didn't have good experience with people.
You mentioned being introverted.
Yeah.
So that could classically mean you've got like a strong core group of a small number of friends.
Yeah, or I was very introverted. I was very shy. Especially in elementary school, I just didn't get along with kids. I was like bullied a lot too, and I just couldn't get along with people. I don't know why. Like I tried my best, and I just, for some reason, I'm not clicking with people. And and I was like a very, ingeniously enough, like I was a people pleaser, but I like fell in and out of like friends group, because I don't know, there's just something, I just couldn't really click or connect with people, and I don't know why. I just like, maybe it's like I'm just like a certain personality type that doesn't get along with people. I was just really shy, and I just couldn't speak up for myself. I got pushed around a lot. I was very bullied a lot. So, quite interestingly enough, when I decided, like, I'm going to go to LA, because I used to live in Orange County, I was like, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to do filmmaking. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to do filmmaking. And why I love filmmaking is it gave me an opportunity to really develop my personality. I'm more outspoken. I speak out a lot. I would like to say, like, I stand up for myself more, or in a sense, I used to care so much about what people think, that I stay quiet. I let people do certain things, like push me around and stuff. Now, I guess with what I learned from filmmaking and building that tough exterior, I'm like, I don't really care what people think anymore. I was like, if you don't like me, you don't like me. That's just how it is. Yeah. And so transitioning to friends, I actually met some of my really good friends, my closest friends, through filmmaking. And I got to meet really genuine people in LA that I hold near and dear. And literally, like, they have become, and there's something that, there's this crew that I worked with when I was in camera and the G&E team with my DP. We call ourselves like the film family, because it's our little family. We've done all the shitty stuff together. We've done all the really nice stuff together. We've always helped each other out, even though we're in different departments, and we've been this like little family that always looked out for each other. And being able to connect with certain people like that in LA has been very rewarding. Because I know there's this sense where LA has a lot of fake people,
Sure.
And, I can say that's definitely not wrong. I mean, it's very common to find people kind of using you for their own benefits, and all that. But I think what's nice too is you can also meet the most genuine people here. And that's the thing that I got blessed to be able to do. And to be honest, living in LA and working through these like tough situations, there are some friends back in Orange County that I have built a better relationship with, because I kind of understand myself better. I have developed more of a personality that's very me. So I'm able to connect with certain people. So my experience, at least living in LA, has been very rewarding, only because I get to learn a lot about myself.
Yeah. So do you feel like you know who you are now, or is there still some discovery left to mine there?
I want to say I'm going to always discover things about myself throughout my life, because I realize I'm not the same person as I was 5 years ago, but I'm also not the same person I was a year ago. So for me, I think I will always be discovering myself, but what's nice right now is I have a better sense of who I am and who I want to be and what I want to work towards.
Yeah, because I guess I didn't mean to be asking about, is this your final form? But yeah, just the understanding your wants and like you said, who you are, how you respond to people, the fact that you've had the experiences of, like, what film does is it gives us tasks, gives us like information that we're in charge of, and it really helps cultivate communication and learning the skills that we can take back to real life, which is helpful.
And I was talking to a friend too, and I think that what's nice, especially living here, meeting new people and going through all the experiences, like good and bad, especially in LA, is like, with the fast life of LA, especially filmmaking and freelancing, like, we're trying to make it big, we're trying to create a career, we're trying to network, we're trying to impress certain people, right? We forget how to value ourselves as people. And that's why, like, that's the nice thing that I learned from here, like, living in LA, is how to value myself. Like, when to say, no, that's my limit. When to say, you know what, I don't want to keep trying to make it work with this work relationship or with this company, because I feel like I need to hold myself value. I need to hold my time more value and all that. And just like being very confident in yourself and knowing, like, you're still human at the end of the day. No matter how much work and how many people, the crowds in LA or the crowds in general in life, where you're trying to impress and all that, it's like, when knowing the limit, when you're like, you know what, I'm still human and my feelings are valid, So I need to know when I need to take a step back from this and see, like, you know what, that group's not worth it, or that job is not worth it to, like, kill my mental state over. Yeah. And that's something I appreciate learning from my experience living here.
And these days, I guess you can even take that almost literally in a sense because of COVID and whatnot. Because that's almost like another layer on top is like this production company's crappy and they don't treat me well. And also I'm risking on some level because they're not taking it seriously or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But going back to the friend thing, so how long, like I said, being that I'm still kind of new in the area, how long have you been able to maintain that same core group, and how does that?
Let me see. I think we met each other back in, like, I want to say 2015, 2014.
Okay, that's a good run.
Yeah, and 2015 to 2017, we kind of didn't really talk to each other. We worked on a couple of sets together. Thanks. And then it's not until, like, I think 2017 or 18 where we, like, literally did 3 low-budget features back-to-back, and we depended on each other a lot, and then we just kept in touch. And that's when we started developing this core group, and again it expanded over time too, like, you know, with different people, with different groups as well. And you know what's interesting is one of those, it's like I learned from my job, like my career was like, I appreciate all the people that has helped out and reach out, and you know, like, you reach out a helping hand on set. Some people don't react well to it, some people, like, are reciprocated, and you guys help each other out. That I learned that, you know, sometimes you vibe well with people on set, sometimes you don't. Sure. And from that, like, up to now, like, it's quite interesting how the more confident I've been with myself, the more I connect with certain people. Like, I went from, like, the beginning of my career, moving up here, really shy, really introverted, maybe talking to, like, the same 2-3 people, to now I have like I would say like 3 separate chat groups with 3 different people. Like, I have a camera team chat room that I still connect with my same camera people. I have one with, like, my feature crew that we worked on all the features together. I have a production one with, like, these 2 production people that we're staying close. That it's been really nice because, like, even though we don't work on the same project, we're helping each other out. Like, I remember one time someone was texting, like, I'm so stressed out, like, my line producer is being crazy. What do you guys think? We're like, well, here, this is what you can do, and we're just being supportive in each other's career.
Yeah. How do you feel about the overlap between work and life? With, like, that's one thing that I'm trying to work through myself, is like, do I just get it through my head that my friends are likely going to be the same friends that I'm hoping to also work with, or am I going to have friends outside of film that have no idea what I'm up to, and we're just kind of like friends regardless? Like, it's kind of like a weird.
It's a weird thing. I have a couple experiences of that. I have a couple of really close friends. I have, like, a group of girls that I stay connected with, and they don't work in film. They're literally an OC. None of them really work in film.
Okay, so they predate you moving into film, though.
Yeah. Or actually, no. Interestingly enough, they were.
Oh, okay.
How can I say? It was one person. Interestingly, we met on a photo shoot where I did makeup for her and she did body paint, and we just stayed connected because she did all my tattoos.
Okay.
And we became best friends, even through film. Like, she has nothing to do with film, but she's been supportive of me every step of the way. Like, she'll try to watch everything I do. It's like really, really sweet. And I got to know her, and then she asked me to be a bridesmaid for her wedding, so I got to know her close group friends. Yeah. And they kind of just accepted me, and
they kind of just
they like just kind of merged me into their group. And it's quite interesting because I'm in film and I live in LA and everyone lives in Orange County. My schedule is so erratic, but you know, like, what I appreciate with that group, that even though we're not in the same industry and they know how busy my schedule can be, they still include me into things. Like, even though I can only make 1 out of, like, 10 things that they plan out, like, they still keep me up to date.
They still try to include you.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice because it's like a nice break sometimes, like being able to talk to people who aren't in film, who has different life careers, who has different life experiences, just getting that nice refreshing like outlook
take
in
a
life.
break.
Yeah, take a break. And then of course, and then I have close friends that were in film, and so the difficult thing about being friends with fellow filmmakers is learning. The toughest part is learning how to not take things personal on set, because set can be crazy. Set can bring out sometimes the worst in us. Sometimes it brings out the strict version of us where we're like, I'm your AC. I'm literally trying to get this done.
Yeah.
And I had a situation with a second where it was very intense with us.
And you were first.
And I was first, and he was my second, and we were just at. It was intense,
At each other's throats.
At each other's throat. But I remember pulling him aside, and I was like, I almost wanted him offset. I was like, this is not working out. It's just, you're frustrating me, and I need to hire another second. But I did pull him aside. I was like, hey, I want you to know at the end of the day, this is what I feel. I hope you feel the same. It's like, whatever happens on set, even if I tell you that you're fired or anything like that, that's coming from an AC. Like I told him on set, I'm talking to you as an AC right now, as your first AC. And then once we wrap, I told him, it's like, hey, whatever happens on set, that was between a first AC and a second AC, But at the end of the day, I told him, I care about you a lot. You're one of my dearest friends, and, I think of you as a friend. So right now, the moment that we are wrapped, I don't see the tension as a second AC that I was experiencing at the beginning of the day. I see you as my friend, and I was like, I can grab a beer with you anytime. On set, I can be like really strict with you. I can be really hard on you. But the moment we wrap, we're friends, I can get a beer. And I told him, I want you to know I'm keeping those two separated. Yeah. I'm not going to bring all my frustration from work to our friendship, because at the end of the day, I was like, I like to go on set saying like, that's my second AC. We're going to keep a good working relationship. I want to be fair, as fair as I can as a first, but there's certain things that I have to implement to them. But once we wrap, I'm not going to like project that onto their personality. Unless they're like really giving me an attitude on set, and I was like, okay, that's your personality. I can't be friends with you. But like if it's a dear friend and I know how they are as my friend, I'm not going to take anything that happened on set personal, because at the end of the day, we all stress, we yell, we can't help it.
Then again, just to push back a tiny bit on that, it is easy to come from, like it's almost feels different when you're the person of power status above the other person too. Because like I know I've had experiences where I've been able to like hook up people. I was like, all right, sweet, like I just overheard that they need some extra PAs tomorrow or something, and I could hook up a buddy, and then I'm a script soup or a first AD or whatever, and then I'm in charge of them, or like I'm hanging out with the cool people and they're all doing other stuff, and it's like, oh hey, like, yeah, thanks for bringing the chair for me. Like, it's a weird thing.
I had an experience when I was the first AC, and I had a DP, and we were just not getting along on set for some reason. But we've been friends for a while. And I just had to remind myself not to take it personally, because I was like, he's my higher up, but he's on a different stress level that I can't imagine, because I'm not a DP.
You're very understanding.
Yeah, I'm trying not to take it personally, and it takes a lot of practice. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have to remind yourself, and I remind myself after we wrap, it's like, at the end of the day, if we weren't doing the set, are they a good person? Okay. Is how they're acting on set valid? Like, were they just stressed? Or is that like actual personality trait? Then I had to take that into consideration. And at the end of the day, I wrap, it's like, you know what? He's a good friend. I'm not going to take it personally. And I think this goes back to when I said, like, the thing I learned living in LA and working as a filmmaker that everyone would eventually hopefully learn is being a good judgment of character. Knowing if it's the position that they're being put into, or is it actually the personality trait. And, we just have to make that judgment. And to be honest, there's no right or wrong at the first time around. There's a lot of trial and error to that, and sometimes you lose friendships, sometimes you don't. But I actually like to think at the end of the day, if we were a really good friend and we had a really good connection, there's nothing that we can't communicate and work out.
Yeah.
You know?
And because of course, there's the two sides of the coin too, where sometimes you discover that that is a personality thing, and they just don't know how to. There's some sort of gap there where they're bleeding over too much, and it's
if they're gonna attack me personally for like a stress on jobs, then it's one of those like that's not a friendship I wanna consider having around, and especially one of those. I had a friend that's like, what if you're trying to do your job right, and they get mad and they don't want to talk to you. And then I actually told my friend, I was like, well, if they're going to ruin, 5 years of friendship over a argument on set, just like a small argument, then maybe you guys weren't as close as you thought you were. And maybe this is not a friendship you want to keep around. Because I met and talked to a lot of people. Some came, some stayed, some screwed me over really hard, some caused me depression. And the thing I learned about it is like I talked and met a lot of people. And I'm to this day, I'm still continually meeting a lot of people. And there is like a group of people that I met, my production manager and line producer from my first music special. We still have a chat room. We don't talk on a regular basis, but sometimes we text each other, how are we doing? So what I realize is you're going to meet and connect with a lot of people, and you're going to be disconnected by some people. But I realize it's not the end of the world, because it's going to take time for me, and it's going to take time for people to really find the people that you really gravitate to, that really have your best interest, or you have their best interest, that really connects really well, and where little arguments it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of that friendship, and you're going to meet people that learn how to really communicate better, because I feel like there's no problem or issue that you can't communicate. And sometimes that communication, sometimes that conversation you have, is when you discover it's like, you know what, we are not that compatible, and that's okay. We can just be acquaintances, or taking that step back is like, I actually had those situations where it's like, hey, I love you as a friend, but I realize our working relationship is very toxic, so I can't work with you anymore to preserve our friendship. It's like, these are the little conversations that you just gotta have. And you know what? They're uncomfortable conversations, but if you want to really understand a person and really want to keep a friendship, sometimes you have to have that uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, no, it's very insightful stuff.
Yeah.
Dang. No, I like all of that. It's very, like I said, insightful. Very, very thought through.
It's a different perspective of how to handle human relationships sometimes, and sometimes it's.
You're just preaching communication.
Yeah, communication is, you know why? It sounds so simple. It's easier said than done. Communication.
It's hard.
It's because it's uncomfortable, but I also feel like you don't learn much from things being comfortable. You learn a lot when things are uncomfortable and that are difficult, because you discover a lot of things. You discover things that work and things that don't work. And and I know confrontation is very difficult for people, but confrontation may be difficult, but the negative emotions that you manifest inside and you let it fester because you don't want to talk about it is going to be more damaging in the long run,
Yeah, no, I vibe with that, and I believe that. I guess, I don't know if I want to, we have a good amount of time left, and I'm not sure, we can go a bunch of different ways, because I do want to talk about, I'll just list off a few things I want to talk about. Just based on Instagram alone.
Oh, yeah.
Food. You seem like, I don't know if you're like because talking like outside of film, like, it seems like you're very into arts and crafts. You're very into, like, I think you bake a lot, or you cook and stuff?
I do cook and bake a lot, and it stems from my dad, because he used to be a chef. And honestly, with the stress of like everyday life and work, cooking just calms me down, and it's something I like to do. I active person now. Like I have to do something. Like even if I have a Zoom call with a client, if I have 10 minutes to spare, I want to do something. I can't just sit there. So I like to cook or bake, and I like to do these little things, and it brings me, you know, like sometimes life can be very hard, and you know, I don't need a big revelation of like what's happiness or revelation of what's happiness, or I don't need like crazy change in my life to de-stress me. Sometimes it's just the little things that brings you little joy to help ease the mind and give me more clarity to think about everything else.
Because then it seems like, I don't know how often you do this, but when you do, it kind of bleeds into the friend stuff too. Like I don't know if it's like Mishi or I feel like I've seen multiple scenarios in which you're gifting food or you're being gifted food, and food seems like this very friend transactional. It's like the love language thing is like a gifting. Whatever it is, it can say a lot.
I think my experience was like, you know, I went through a lot of difficult things in my life, and sometimes you don't want someone to like, I can solve this for you. Sometimes you just want someone to reach out and it's like, hey, are you okay? And like make you feel like you're not going through it alone, make you feel like, you know, you're being heard, whatever it is. So for me, I think what my experience is from like my past experience, I look at people, I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's going on in your life, and sometimes the happiest people might be going through the most.
Sure.
So for me, I realize at least what I've experienced is I don't need to give something big or do something like something crazy for people to feel joy. Sometimes the little things really brings the tiniest happiness to people's life, and it's kind of nice because like I can have a friend going through a stressful day and I can't really fix their problem, and sometimes people don't really want to talk about it, and I totally understand because when we go through some like mental health issues or emotional issues, like it's hard for us to communicate, and that's okay.
Yeah, because we're still working through it ourselves, or whatever the case.
And we don't want to feel pressure to talk about it. And for me, I think the little things that you do for people is one of those. Hey, I can't help you, and I'm not gonna force you to talk about it, but you know, I baked you something to know that I'm here for you, and I hope you're doing okay. Just so it's like. Or like little distractions, like I know you're going through a stressful time, so you know I made these cookies, and I hope it helps give that little joyful distraction, because that's something like I had a couple of people do for me, and it actually makes a world of a difference during a bad day. So for me, if I could do that in return, it's really nice. And personally, I'm happy when my friends are happy, you know, like I'm happy when we're all happy. So even it's little things that we can do for each other, it doesn't take much out of our day. It doesn't cost us much. But like baking cookies can take like 30 minutes for me, right? And it doesn't cost me much.
Sure.
It doesn't take much out of my day, but you never know. That might be the biggest positive effect of someone else's day that I don't know about. Like it may have not been much for us to do, but it might have made someone's day very, very heavily. It could have been a heavy change for their mood.
You're saying being gifted the cookies.
Yeah.
Being just knowing that you were thinking of them, and then here's this gesture to show that you're there and you care, like that. No, that because when you're in those low moments, you're often trying to tell yourself that others don't see you or they're not there for you, but then that kind of gives that little spark of hope.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, it's proof. It's physical proof.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
Because I feel like one of the experiences, sometimes when life gets to you, you feel like you're drowning, and sometimes all of us needs a little reminder that the bad things don't stay bad that long. Like literally, as cliche as it sounds, life moves on because like you can go through something and there's tomorrow and there's the next day. And sometimes there's a lot of events in our life where we look back like maybe years from now that's like I can't believe that happened, but I'm so much more different and it's like things have changed and that doesn't affect me anymore. So these little gifts, it's a little bit of a reminder of someone's like, even though you're going through something bad, little good things can still happen. You just gotta work towards it.
Because when you're saying that the bad things aren't forever, it reminds me as well of like you said, there's still tomorrow. There's still like I almost think that even the gift of the cookie itself, like the next moment being happy, like, that could change the entire day. Like you kind of said, like it could change on an instant.
An instant, And sometimes it's like just have that sigh of relief after feeling so so suffocated. Just that one moment of joy can actually distract you from like the difficult realities of life, and it just distracts you a little bit. And then at least for me, when I get something like that and I'm going through something difficult, I take a breather, and sometimes someone will make me something and then I'll take a bite, and I was like, it's that moment distraction. I was like, you know what, I'm actually okay, I can do this. It's like it calms my head down, because when you're stressed, your mind's going through so many things, going through so many scenarios, going through so many like just turmoil, that sometimes that one little second can just make you take a pause. You're like, you know what, my head's a little bit more clear. And it's not as bad as I think it is.
I didn't quite expect my question about cookies to go to be so deep. But no, I dig it. Let's transition from cookies to ice cream.
Ice cream?
Rumor has it you're a big fan of you have a sweet tooth.
I do.
And you like ice cream.
I do.
Okay.
Weirdly, well, kind of. I don't know why. Sometimes I like ice cream, and sometimes I'm just like.
Or sometimes you don't like ice cream.
Yeah.
I'll throw out some names of some ice cream places. Honey Me.
I do like Honey Me because it's very flaky. You know who likes Honey Me too? My dog. Because I give her a little little taste, because it's like kind of milk. I try not to give her too much. She's like obsessed with Honey Me too.
I was like, wait, do they have a dog?
No, they don't. But it's not too bad. As long as you don't give too much. She likes Honey Me a lot.
Sure. So what is Honey Me? Is it just ice cream?
It's ice cream, but it's one of those. It's not really vanilla. It's like milk flavor ice cream. And what I like is, I like the simplicity of it, where it's just milk flavor, so it's not as creamy or heavy as vanilla ice cream. But they put honey, like fresh honey and honeycomb on it. Okay. So it has that little nice sweetness from the honey, and it has a little bit of a mellow taste from the milk.
Yeah, I've never been, but I did see it. You had posted some cool pictures about it. And I was like, it looks good.
It's really good. I really like it, and it doesn't feel heavy at the end of the day, like vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, it's a nice to satiate that sugar urge. I don't know. I could talk about a couple other things. Let's talk about like this. This could potentially go nowhere, but based on the cookies, I don't know where it could go. The hair. So, I know that you color your hair on occasion. Right now it's short.
Yeah, I literally made a decision that morning. I was like, cut it short. She's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah.
Yeah. So what does this external representation, to go a philosophical route, demonstrate about, or is it just like, how do you approach it?
I approach it, if I can say anything about my hair, if it's not just like me just changing up my hair. Sure. It's one of those, I tend to be very impulsive, so this is like the nice impulsive thing that I can do that's not harmful. Yeah. But I think one of the things I do is, little things that I do is like, I bake new recipe, I change up my hair all the time, is because I feel like when I work and doing things day to day, I have to be very structural. I was like, okay, these are the things I have to do. So like for me, to break up the monotony of that, is I change up my hair. I'm very impulsive, and it allows me to be that impulsive, spontaneous side of me is changing my hair a little bit because I work in such a structural world sometimes that I need to do something that's a little different, and it keeps me a little sane, I think, as well. So then it's me balancing like structure with a little bit of spontaneous chaos. It's like I think everything in life can be a balance. You can be very strict on strict on set, but I can also be very impulsive and just spontaneous when I go out to travel or do something fun,
Yeah.
And and all that. So then that's how my hair is.
Okay.
It's like me just being spontaneous because I don't really get to do that. So it's something I like to do just to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, because you'll go from like pink to blue to, I don't know if you've done silver or.
I have done many things, and I think it is a little bit of reflection of my personality, because I think what people say, because I work all the time, what people say, there's two sides of me. There's the really strict person who's like, I need this and this, and there's also that weird spontaneous person who's just really random, and just there's no if I don't talk about work, the things I talk about is just very random. Like, it just makes no sense. I can just be distracted by anything. So my hair is kind of like a reflection of my personality, where I'm just like, I don't really care. I like to do whatever I feel like, and it's always random, it's always weird, but I like it, I embrace it. And I think it is also another reflection is like I spent a lot of time as a kid trying to really connect with people and make friends, and I had such a hard time, and no matter what I try to do, I can't please them, and it's always like me always trying to please the other person, and me like pushing my personality down just to make sure it vibes well with them. So now that I'm grown confident in myself, where I'm like, you know what, I'm just not going to care what people think, and if people like me who I am, people are going to like me for who I am, and that's like my hair. It's like, I'm just going to do it. If people don't like it, oh well.
and it kind of comes back to, I don't know. I feel like it's being very philosophical here. But it comes back down to the external representation of what you're displaying here. It has nothing to even really do who you are. That's people accept you for who you are, not for what color your hair is. Is the ideal friend, right?
Yeah. So that's the philosophical part, but then like the non-philosophical part is like I like doing random things all the time.
Do you also, like, looking back on old photos and stuff, do you look back at and can you like see a particular hair color or style that you had and be like, oh my gosh, I was going through, like, that was this phase where I was kind of jumping into game show like set and like that, or like, is that a thing that you track at all?
Not really.
Okay.
I know I look back at some hairstyle that is like something that I wouldn't do now.
Sure.
And I will look at it, it's like, well, that was interesting choice I made, and I don't know. I have a hard time like going like, is that a phase or not? Because I'm just very random, and I think my personality is I don't like to dwell on things. I just like things to happen. So then for me, that's why I look back. I was like, oh, that was weird. I don't know why I did that, but I did it.
Yeah. I mean, not even in the way of being a representation of why you're doing it, but just like, oh, I remember that I was working on this, and this during that.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay,
yeah. Or there's something I do after every show I do, and my best friend would know this because she does it for me, is every big show where I'm very stressed and it's something crazy that I did, I always get one tattoo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I love tattoos. So,
okay.
And so it's quite interesting because like with hairstyle, I'm always changing it. Sometimes I change it during the shoot. When I look at my tattoo, I just remember what part of life I was at with it. So
that's
like
very cool.
Yeah, so I was like, this is when I did the game show. This is when I did the music video. This is when it was my last time being a fully committed AC, and I transitioned to production. So it's like little things that I did. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I guess. Yeah, I ask because it's not even that big of a thing, but like I've been doing the man bun is new this year for me. So even like it's the first time like I've had the same haircut pretty much since high school up until like last year.
Yeah.
So then when I look at photos of myself now versus last year, I'm like, whoa, that's
It's
weird.
really different, right?
I'm like, that's not me anymore. Like it's a new feeling to me. So I was wondering if that's a normal thing.
It actually does, because I look back at some of my old photos, like, well, I'm really different. And then, you know what?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, too, it reminds me of, like, because, you know, every photo with, like, different hairstyle, you kind of already have that weird feeling that you know what happened during that time. So you're like, well, I was a really different person back then. And it's kind of nice to reflect on it.
And that is the other cool thing too, is it's nice looking back on yourself and seeing the growth that you've had. Like it'd be weird looking back on yourself and you look exactly the same and nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Like that would be a weird feeling to have.
It is. And you know what's interesting about hair is, like, I go through some of the same color and haircut.
Okay, yeah.
I remember looking back at a photo with my short hair going, I got that short hair because I was going through a really depressing time, and I cut it because I just needed a mental break, and I was hoping a short haircut will help me with that. It's kind of interesting looking back at that photo and doing it now, where I'm like, well, now I cut my hair short because I just felt like it. So it's kind of interesting looking back up, like, what mental state I was going through and how it changed so much. Like, my reasoning to do certain hair color, certain haircut at that time compared to now, and it's kind of interesting to see how much I changed and how my perspective has changed.
That's very empowering in ways too. Being that decisions are being made differently now in different ways, and your awareness of it is kind of cool. Sweet. Do you want to talk about? I don't know. Do you want to talk about? Because you've posted about it a couple times, but I don't know if you even the Post Malone thing you just came off of.
Oh yeah, it actually premieres today.
It premieres today?
Yeah.
So it'll be out by the time this comes out. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird because I don't know how to, like, view it. Like, there's instructions on how to watch it.
Okay.
Because it's through Facebook Watch.
Okay.
I actually have no idea how to watch it. I'm not going to watch it because it seems really complicated.
Sure. It's just complicated to just find it and watch it?
No, I think there's a step that you have to do because it's supposed to be very interactive.
Okay.
And I would like to watch it, but I feel like with my time, it's going to be hard for me to...
It's a little bit too involved.
Yeah, it's a little too involved for me.
So you were production coordinator on that. And that was a reality show.
Yes. It was like a weird reality competition show.
Yeah. And I guess to just get it off the bat right away, did you have a chance to interact with Post Malone? Was that an experience that you...
No, only because I don't really interact with talent.
You stayed away.
Yeah, I stay away from talent because I just, like, I don't...
Because you don't have the excuse to be around them, even if you wanted to be.
Yeah, and also if I'm around talent, there's a lot more responsibilities that I'm trying not to tack on with my thing. But what I have discovered with him is we don't interact with it. Me and my production manager don't interact with talent. We stay away from talent.
Just in general.
Just in general. There's a team for it. We have so much stuff to do with crew and logistics that we don't want to do with talent. But I remember one particular night, we were wrapping out. And so our stage is, like, here. We're in the theater. And the parking lot next to it is our, like, base camp where it had all the talent trailers, the production office, the COVID check-in tent, and VIP tent. So it's like our compound of, like, things that basically crew has to check in there first before they go into the theater.
Yeah.
And I remember my production manager and I was just standing by the front gate of the compound while we're waiting for talent to leave so then we can start cleaning up and wrapping out and leaving, you know. Like, we can't do much with the talent trailer until the talent leaves, you know. So we were standing there just waiting for them to leave so that we can finish cleaning up for the night. I remember just standing there, me and her were talking about what we needed to do that night, and Post Malone and his entourage finally leaves their trailer, walks by us, and he literally stopped at everyone, and he stopped in front of me and my production manager and was like, thank you for everything today. And he would, like, look at us straight in the eye. He, like, did a small bow, and he's like, thank you for everything that you did. And he acknowledged every crew member, and he literally, instead of just walking straight to his car, he would, like, acknowledge every crew member that was still out there and thank every single one of them. And that was a pleasant experience I had. And, you know, you heard reputation of him being really, really nice. And my friend's actually his stunt double for a lot of his music video, and he said he's really nice, but to really see him in person, I was like, the rumors are true. He's actually very sweet. I had a prop master that would work alongside him a lot in the theater, and he was like, I love Post because Post Malone will every day go like, hey, and he knows his name is like, hey, Randy, how are you? How are you today? Did you get rest? And it was just like really, really sweet.
Yeah, that's very nice. So those are always good stories to hear.
Yeah.
Nice people being nice.
Well, trust me, there's some divas, which I will not mention, but there were some people that have made our job very difficult.
So who are the divas? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to kind of ramp us out. That's not a proper term. Close out in a way, talking about you and your dreams and what's coming next and how you, not to stress you out or anything, but I don't know how much you, like what the goal, like I'm curious to know you as Lily on where you want to see yourself and what you're kind of aiming for and what, like that kind of stuff.
So for me, I think people always ask me like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your goal in your career? Do you want to be a producer? Do you want to win an Oscar? Blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
All that. And honestly, I don't really have that much career goal. I'm a person who likes to constantly learn. I like to develop a lot. I like to learn new things. I like to learn new things about the world, etc. So for me, my career is, I want to do whatever makes that is enjoyable. I'm not really particular. Right now, production is very enjoyable for me. And when I find something enjoyable, like a department that I find enjoyable, I want to be the best that I can. Like I want to constantly be better at it and do bigger things and have more goals in life.
Yeah.
But my biggest goal in life is literally travel and learn about different culture, different aspects of the world. So filmmaking is actually a way for me to have stability in my life, to make me financially comfortable so I can travel leisurely.
So like ideally you would take your 3-month gig and then you have 4 months off or whatever, and you can go and travel with that time and then come back for work again, like that kind of.
Yeah, I would like to, the only leisure thing that I would like to do is travel, and I actually love working. So if I could work constantly.
I mean, it's a win-win is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Although I'm notorious for like not ever taking a vacation, because then like I could finish a show and they're like, are you going to take a vacation? I was like, no, I kind of want to work on another show right now because I need some, I like to work.
So have you had the chance to do much travel?
Well, I originally wanted to this year, but with COVID, it just didn't work out the way I wanted to. So I'm hoping if everyone does their part to help make this pandemic situation a little bit better. I know it sucks and there's a lot of sacrifice to do, but I think if we work together and really work towards making a safer environment during this pandemic and we could travel next year, I would probably travel. I don't like to travel long periods of time. I like probably at most 2 weeks at a time, so then I could go back to work. Yeah, I love work so much.
So you can get back to work.
Yeah, so I could go back to work.
All right. Do you have like... No, it's cool. The dogs are being called.
They hear the door and they just like need to go and
check it out. So do you have like a list of places that you're ready to hop to, or is it similar to the hair where it's like, you know what, impulse at the end of the shoot, I'm just gonna go here now.
Yeah,
that's okay.
It's very impulsive, but there is like the top ones that I wanted to visit. Of course, Japan, because I grew up learning Japanese culture because I love how the culture, it just appealed to me as a kid, and it actually helped me go through a lot of things in life by studying the culture, by really wishing I could go there. So, even my friends now, they're like, when are you going to Japan? Because that's like my long time dream. So Japan, I was planning to go to Taiwan with a couple of friends, filmmaker friends who wanted to show me Taiwan. I actually know a lot of Taiwanese filmmaker that we want to go to Taiwan. And honestly, like, of course, there's the European cities that typical, like Paris,
all the
Italy,
there,
and all that. But honestly, I would love to visit those, but I would like more so priorities like visiting Egypt, visiting Istanbul, and visiting like like Iceland and all that, like all
Yeah,
and like or Holland or you know
Any,
Denmark or anything. Just like more like unique, very like
okay.
cultural. Like I don't know, like those cities appeal to me,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually I'll make my way to Europe, hopefully, and all that.
And then after that, you'll start maybe thinking about other U.S. spots too.
Yeah,
So.
other U.S. spots too. I'm hoping next year. So the original DP of Gook and Miss Purple, girls.
No, they've done very well so
I know
far.
they just saw someone out the
Yeah.
door. But the DP and I think Justin, the director of Miss Purple and Gook. I don't know if he is, but I know the DP. I'm really close friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
He's shooting something in Korea right now, and he's going to Canada next year to finish another show. And I was gonna hopefully try to visit him. I'm hoping the borders between Canada and the U.S. is a little lighten up a little bit, so I could visit him in Vancouver, I believe.
Yeah. Because I mean, you kind of mentioned a potential goal of doing an international project.
Yeah.
So that almost kind of plays into the travel, like it's built-in travel, and you could extend your stay, and you can kind of do that other stuff. And
I actually I got the opportunity to do an international portion for a special back in March. I was working with international crew trying to do something for a special we had. And are you guys okay? Are you okay?
Hi.
Are you okay? But we ended up not being able to do it because right when we were planning, like I had a bunch of fixers in Mumbai. I was working with fixers in
Fixers.
Fixers are so you know how it gets daunting when you had to do a shoot in like India or Africa, right? Like Ghana, I was working with Ghana and trying to figure out all the logistics in there. So fixers aren't really like production people, but they're certain people in that country that is the liaison between the American crew and the crew there. So they will help you get visa. They're basically your go-to guys. It's like, hey, can you help me set up with visa? Okay. I worked with a fixer. It's like, how many visa do you need? Do you need Wi-Fi? What kind of hotels do you need? What kind of crew do you need? Do you need a line producer? I can get that for you. Do you need rental cars? So they basically help us.
And they just handle that transition into the new country.
Yeah. So they're basically the local that will help us around the city.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I was able to work with Sydney. Trying to figure out Sydney, Australia, trying to figure out something there. I was working with a fixer for Mumbai, India, and then I was working with a fixer for Ghana in Africa. And we were kind of on like the beginning part. I don't know if I was able to travel. We weren't. I didn't have those details yet, and then COVID hits, and then we took a pause. So that was like the crush of my international work. But I'm hoping it will pick up maybe next year or something like that.
We'll see. No, but it makes sense, your answer to the whole dream question, because you have presented through your history thus far, like you're still jumping into camera team when you have availability, and it's a switch of pace, doing production coordinator, doing producer.
Yeah.
I don't know, if you still like I think I saw a credit where you're also first ADing at some point.
Yeah, I first AD'd a couple of stuff, which was very crazy and daunting. I literally do little things. I find my little comfortability in camera department before, and now I find my comfortability in production.
Right.
So I definitely, I like to do different departments, but there's always a department that you will eventually gravitate towards, where you're going to work hard towards it, where you can climb up the ladders.
Yeah.
And that has always been camera department and now production team for me.
Yeah. And then maybe soon it'll be art.
Oh yeah, I've done a couple art stuff for people, non-credited. Like I'll do a music video and I'll
and
design.
You stay away from post, I'm assuming.
Yes, I don't do
no
post.
Editing, no VFX.
No, I can't. I tried to edit a couple things before, just help out an editor, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
it's definitely not me.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Sound is the other one that you're also missing.
Yes.
Which there's no reason to jump into that at this point.
I've with short films, you did a little bit of everything before.
Yeah.
And but I definitely would not have a career in sound.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think we're good. And yeah.
Sorry, let me grab her.
Get
I need to give her a shout out because more people know about her than they do about me.
Oh, really?
Like, there are strangers who's like, I get to meet Daisy, and I've never met them. Like, it's like my friend, one of my director's fiance knows this girl.
Yeah. So let's describe Daisy for the people just listening, if you can.
Daisy is my little, like, she's like my mini-me pretty much. And she basically, my friend raised her, and I babysat her when he's a stunt guy who's going around doing a bunch of features in different countries. And he asked if I could look after her because she's a little hyper for his in-laws. And so I was like, yeah. And then he asked if I wanted to hold on to her. And I feel like I adopted her because his in-laws can't handle her really well. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much kept her, and she's been my little mini-me. No. She's been my little mini-me. And the thing is, everyone who comes over always likes to take pictures of her and post. Like, her photos get posted quite often on Instagram, so a lot of people know who she is.
She doesn't have her own Instagram.
She does. It's like every Daisy with 2 Ys, I think. I can't remember. But I just remember there are people that have never, I don't know, who knows who this girl is.
That's crazy. Well, there's Daisy. Thanks for making an appearance on the podcast.
She's very vocal. We say if she had a job in the film industry, is a COVID officer, because she doesn't like affection. Like, if you hug someone, she'll bark.
Oh, kind of gets mad at it.
So she's like, she barks at anyone who goes near each other.
And that's how you know.
Yeah. Are you a COVID officer?
All right, Daisy. Thanks for being on, Lily. Thanks for having me over, for being a part, sharing all of your experiences and insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's like, this is my first podcast, so it's quite interesting. Like, I've never really done a podcast. I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I listen to a couple. So it's always interesting too.
You did great.
Yay!
All right, cool. Bye, everybody.
Bye.